It's been a grind. There's been a lot of positives, but there's been a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of painful conversations, a lot of, arguments between me and my wife, a lot
Sure.
of stress being put on the kids. I mean, there's so much more that goes into not just making it successful, but making it to next week, let alone making it successful.
As most of you know, over the past 11 years, I've been in and around the outdoor industry in a bunch of different ways. From being a consumer and a user of outdoor gear, obviously on all of my adventures, to being a reviewer and a tester here on my YouTube channel, a designer and a developer helping some other companies in the past to design and develop gear, and now over the past 3.5 years owning and operating my own small cottage gear company. I've kind of seen every side of the gear industry, both the small cottage side of it and the big box store companies making gear. So today I wanted to have a deep dive conversation and kind of pull back the curtain on the pros and the cons of being a small independent cottage gear company. Everything that comes with it, all of the difficulties and the challenges, all the rewards, why companies decide to make things in the US versus making them overseas, where you're getting the real value from, and why it all matters. And I didn't just want to have this conversation from my point of view. I actually sat down with another owner and operator of a small independent cottage gear company, Chad from UGQ, a great quilt company that I've been using for years. It's actually the quilt that I used on my CDT thru hike. But I wanted to sit down with him because he has a very different journey in being an outdoor gear owner and operator, and just talk about all the ins and outs of it. Talk about the struggles and all the good things that come with it. Like I said, the pros and the cons, and kind of show you guys a little bit of how the sausage is made, as the term goes. But before we jump into the conversation, I want to let you guys know that today's podcast episode is sponsored by the fine folks over at Kenyon. It's no surprise that over the past 11 years of doing all these thru hikes and bike tours and bike packing trips, climbing trips, pack rafting trips, I have beat my body into the ground, especially my feet and my knees. Not to mention, before that, I raced triathlon for 8 years. So I've not treated my joints and my muscles the best over the past 19 years. And last August, I turned 40. And what I've noticed over the past couple of years is I just don't bounce back from my big hikes as fast, from my day hikes as fast, from my training sessions at the gym. It's getting harder for me to bounce back, feel better, and get out to do it the next day. So over the past 1.5 years, I've really been trying to step up my recovery game, and I decided to give red light therapy a try. If you're not familiar with red light therapy, basically what it does is red lights penetrate through your skin down into your muscles and your joints and help promote recovery, whether that is cartilage rejuvenation, muscle rejuvenation, help with aches and pains, inflammation, and help to promote new cell growth, helping you bounce back, helping those joints, helping those muscles, and get you back to doing your physical activity much faster. Well, I picked up a device called the Kenyon Move Plus, the version 1, and I've been using it for the past 1.5 years, and it's become my secret weapon in all of my training. Whether it's getting back from a big thru hike in the gates of the Arctic or training sessions, because lately I've been training for my ride of the Tour Divide in June of 2026. This thing has helped promote faster recovery, especially with my knees. I have terrible knees. I've torn my meniscus on both of my knees twice, and I've had a surgery on my right knee. Well, the Kenyon Move Plus has really helped me step up my recovery game, letting me recover faster and bounce back the next day. What I really love about this device is how super easy it is to use and how compact and travel friendly it is. So over the past 1.5 years, I had the version 1, but the new version 2 actually allows you to customize the strap position any way you want to, so you can kind of fit it around any part of your body. So it's not just for your knees, but you can use it on your shoulder, on your neck, on your feet, on your legs, on your torso, your hips. Anywhere where you're having pain and inflammation, you can now adjust the straps to put it anywhere. Not to mention, Kenyon also gives you this awesome little travel case that you can charge the devices in and then throw it in your bag to take it with you no matter where you're going. So that makes sure that I can recover while I'm out on the road. So if you guys want to check out the Kineon Move Plus system, if you're having aches and pains and you just want to step up your recovery game and help support me, the channel, and my podcast, check out my link down below or in the show notes to get 10% off of the Kineon Move Plus system. I can't thank Kineon enough for sponsoring the podcast, sponsoring me, and sponsoring my channel, and just making an awesome product that's really helped me bounce back from my big adventures. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the conversation with Chad from UGQ about all of the pros and cons, about what it takes to run a small gear company, and how hard it can be to compete in this big outdoor gear market, not only with the big name gear companies, but also with the other cottage companies. Give me your, I guess, background of being kind of what your entry into the whole cottage gear industry was and kind of the small gear company world.
So my stepdad actually started UGQ in 2011 officially. He had been dabbling with like making stuff on and off, before that with friends and whatever, but officially turned on a website in 2011. I came into the business in 2013, 2014-ish for the first time. I've quit like 6 times over the years. Family stuff.
Oh, I understand.
Quit in 2015, came back in 2017. Now, when I came back in 2017, it was as a partial owner of the business. And that was basically, my stepdad had kind of this vision and a new shop, and he kind of wanted to really go in a new direction with the company and asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. Now, there was a lot of family drama that happened, which is what led me to leave. But after talking with him and kind of going over the business plan and kind of looking at where I fit in that whole puzzle, it excited me. I've never been one to enjoy working for someone else or working for a big company or working for the wrong person. I've always been quite picky when it came to my jobs, and all the jobs that I've ever had outside of UGQ were all contract based. So I really didn't have a boss. It was kind of like me doing my own thing. And that's kind of what I really enjoyed the most. So during the pandemic, we blew up like everybody else did that was running a company, a gear outdoor company during the pandemic.
Sure.
And we were making like 40 custom quilts a day. It was like absurd for a custom quilt. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
For those of you that aren't aware, it's a lot. And we had upwards of 35 employees. We had this big 11,000 square foot shop. We had just put a bunch of money into it to kind of customize it to us and our workflow. And as we get through 2021, things really just all of a sudden came to a screeching halt. We went from, stimulus checks, everyone's, at home, life is good. I mean, life wasn't good, but you know what I mean? In the outdoor space, life was good.
Yeah, the wave. I hear everybody, all cottage gear companies from that time talk about the wave, and then the wave crashed. Like it was a massive wave. Tried to grow over 2020 or in 2021, just trying to grow their company because just the outdoors boomed. Yeah, I remember that big time because I was working with some other companies at that time.
You can't predict the future, and so we were advancing the company as if this was the new norm.
Sure.
And so we made a lot of strategic decisions and made some investments into ourselves as a company and into the right employees, and really trying to solidify this as our new normal, and this is kind of the new direction we're going, and this is how things are going to be from now on. And in 2021, things, really just like, it was like a faucet turned off. It was on, and then all of a sudden it was off. And we were all of a sudden faced with, oh crap, we've got a bunch of employees. We got massive payroll. We've got all this inventory tied up. We've got just a lot that we have to figure out. And that started a cascading effect of a lot of family friction.
Sure.
So I ended up leaving the company when we made the decision to let go of the shop, move it back into a house because it had dried up that quickly.
Oh, wow.
And the slowdown didn't stop. Things continued to get slower and slower and slower to the point to where I had heard through the grapevine that they were actually closing the doors. So we kind of had all parted ways. We weren't really talking. It was just it was kind of a bad breakup all the way around. And I heard through a friend of mine who was still working there that, he had got let go and another family member had got let go. And so I reached out to my mom and basically asked her like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, well, we're actually closing the doors. We're done. Things are just not looking up. We can't figure out what's happening, why we've slowed down so much. And I had approached them and said, look, I understand that you guys don't want to do anything with this anymore, but would you be willing to take this offer and let me see what I can do with it? Let me see if I can build the company back up. And, at that time, if it becomes lucrative, then you guys will have a piece of the pie and you've lost really nothing. And so we had kind of agreed that I was going to take over running the company. And after back and forth, Brittany and I ended up with the entire company.
Wow.
All the nitty gritty details are irrelevant.
Sure.
But we ended up with the company outright. And so our first course of action was we had 2 weeks to find a staff, find a shop, because they were operating out of their basement at this point, and they had already sold their house. And so we had literally 2 weeks to source a shop, get all the equipment moved in and out of their basement, moved in here, and find staff because they had already let everyone go. Yeah. And by some miracle, we accomplished it. We got everything done in that window. We found this shop that we're in now, and it was an absolute godsend at the time. I mean, it's a beautiful shop. It's allowed us to do more than we ever thought we would do. Totally. However, it's been the grind of my life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's an understatement. It's been an absolute grind because it was a startup for us 3 years ago, more or less.
Right.
We had the brand name and the reputation, so to speak, which still questionable for those that are in the know. And
we can get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a grind. There's been a lot of positives, but there's been a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of painful conversations, a lot of arguments between me and my wife, a lot of stress being put on the kids. I mean, there's so much more that goes into not just making it successful, but making it to next week.
Totally.
Let alone making it successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then that gets into, the main thing that I want to have a conversation about is the pros and the cons. Because I think there's a lot of people that see, and maybe this is just from my narrative, because of obviously, like I've owned Evolve Supply Co., my gear company, for 3.5 years. We started in October of 2022, and it started as just a small project. It was actually just supposed to be a collaboration. So I started the company. It wasn't even supposed to be a company. I had made a backpack with another company. Designed, developed it, helped promote it, get it out there. Absolutely loved it. Was really proud of it. Went to use it on my 2021 CDT thru hike. And while I was out there, as you do when you are testing and developing stuff and you've made something, you start nitpicking it, right? You start looking at it and be like, oh, if I had to do it again, I'd do this differently. Oh, if I had to do it again, I'd add this or take this away, or I'd change this fabric. So I had 3,000 miles to basically...
It's the birthplace of innovation there.
To nitpick, right? So during the CDT, I was thinking a lot about like, oh, I have kind of another backpack in me. At the same time, I was trying to develop a sun hoodie. And I'd been kind of searching for the perfect hiking top for years. And at the time, I had my channel, Darwin on the Trail. I had a media production company called Outdoor Revolution where we were doing the podcast. I had already started the podcast. We were dropping articles, doing films, stuff like that. It was to really do a lot of different type of creative stuff that was outside of the YouTube space.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, and then on top of that, I was also doing production work. So the reason I'm actually in this studio right now is this was a studio that was built for my production company. So we were doing documentary stuff and we were doing commercial work for other companies. And I don't even know.
Very nice, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice work.
Thank you.
I've seen all the commercials and they were great.
Thank you, sir. And I don't really know what my plan was with gear. I knew that like the sun hoodie originally, actually I think there's a thumbnail that's even on my channel that I was talking about new gear for the CDT. It's right before I went out there. And on the thumbnail is a prototype of a sun hoodie. It's black. And in the video, I'm wearing it. And I had taken a little Outdoor Revolution patch and I put it on there. So in the thumbnail, there's like a black folded up thing. And it's got an Outdoor Revolution. Because my whole plan was like, I just want to make a sun hoodie. And I guess I'll just make it the Outdoor Revolution sun hoodie or the Darwin sun hoodie or something. There's no plan for a gear company. Go to do the CDT. Have the idea to do the backpack. The other situation with the other company that I developed a backpack ended poorly. Was not a great situation for me. So I did, I was like, well, I'm not going to obviously do it with them. What am I going to do? And I ended up getting in conversation with a guy who owned a custom pack company. He was just making one-off backpacks here and there. And the idea came
Dude, those are the
along.
best. Those are the best companies. Those are my
Right,
favorite
yeah,
companies, the one that make the
make
one-offs.
the
Dude, because they're
customs.
making so much. Yeah. Anyways, I'll get into that later.
Fair enough. So I was like, I have an idea for a backpack. Do you want to do a collaboration? Like maybe we can release it under your brand, or maybe we can release it under my brand. And it was kind of decided, oh, we'll put it out and we'll call it Evolved. Like we'll just give it its own name and kind of make it its own brand. But it wasn't meant to be a company. It was just meant to be a backpack. And we got in this
Sure.
deal where we were only going to do so many backpacks. It was 200. After 200 backpacks, we'll kind of make a decision. Do we continue forward and make this an actual company? Or do we go our separate ways because it didn't work out? Whatever. It ended up going the latter, where we went the separate ways because he wasn't interested in continuing to invest in it and do kind of what it was to grow a gear company. I was about to do the Sun Hoodie,
Sure.
found another company to collaborate with. So I decided to keep going my own separate way with it. And that's kind of how Evolved. So Evolved started as a complete accident. I was not trying to start a gear company. I just wanted a shirt and a backpack for myself.
Yeah.
And it ended up turning it into an entire company. And then over the years, kind of similar to your situation, I don't sew. Like anybody that has seen my gear company and that thinks that I'm making products myself, I am not making anything. I know design, I understand how to create patterns, but like I'm all thumbs when it comes to sewing. I've never attempted to run a sewing machine. But that being said, like I know how to design, I know features that go into something. I can take an idea out of my head, put it on paper, and then help someone take that piece of paper and turn it into fabric, right? So, because of the situation that I had when we started the company, it was me coming up with designs, doing the marketing, doing the branding, being the face. And then the sew shop was located not here in Arizona, it was located originally in Colorado and then moved to Florida. So I didn't have a shop. I didn't have anybody doing stuff in house. It was all being done remotely. Well, when he left the situation, I basically got everything dumped in my lap as a gear company. So even though this was a production company and we were doing all the content and media, all of a sudden I had to build a sewing shop knowing nothing. So bought a Juki. I had a buddy that's a sewist, bought a industrial Juki sewing
A
machine.
sewist. I don't know if I've
I
ever
know,
heard
right?
that term before.
Really? Oh, I've been told
Literally.
not to call them sewers. I've been told a
We call
sewist is this.
ourselves either fabric welders or thread injectors.
Ooh, I like that. I like fabric welders. That's pretty good.
I've never heard sewist though. That's a
Sewist,
new one,
really? That's
which is
all I've ever
surprising
heard.
because I've been in this for a long time.
Yeah. So I got a machine. I had a buddy help me build a cutting table, which is still the table that we use today, our smaller table. And I basically rented another suite that's actually on just the other side of this wall, my backdrop wall. It was a room that's on the other side, and I built a sewing shop. Had no clue what
Yeah.
I was doing, starting to fulfill orders because we were having a lot of stuff made out of house. So we found some small manufacturers, like one in Colorado that was making our backpacks for us. Um, so we weren't really making a lot in house, but we were still, I wanted to design and develop and have a sew shop.
Sure.
So I hired a sewist to come in, help me design stuff. And then that's kind of how it started. So all by accident, kind of like you, even though the company at that point had already been around for like 6, 8 months, it all got kind of dumped in my lap. And I had the opportunity to either let it go and, okay, this was just a failed experiment, or I can actually turn it into a company. And then I started from ground zero with trying to grow a company. And now here we are 3.5 years later. And sometimes I still feel like I'm at ground zero with it just because.
See, the only difference between you and I is that I actually scooped it all into my lap
Yeah, it was just dumped.
willingly for some dumb reason.
um, and then, throughout the last handful of years, I had a partner come in that has since left the company that came in to help me run it, was helping out as just a friend, answering emails, stuff like that. I made him a part of the company. It didn't work out, as you know, with even family members. Like partnerships are ridiculously hard. They just don't work because two different visions, or one person has the vision, the other person lacks the vision, and like everybody's got to be in tune on the same thing to make something successful and work. So
Well, for
unfortunately,
us, my partner is my spouse, and there's a whole
totally.
nother
Oh yeah.
multiple layers
Yeah.
of
Oh God. Yeah. I've,
elements
I've been down
involved.
that road too. It's Outdoor Evolution, my production company. My wife was technically my partner in that. She did
Yeah.
all the back end stuff, and needless to say, it didn't work because we've been married for going on 19 years now, and like
Oh, wow.
it's really hard to mix business and relationship and have those things separate, right? So
Yeah. I
that didn't
find that I'm
work.
usually the problem. So, once I admitted that, things smoothed over
That's
a
the
lot.
smartest thing. Just admit that just go with it. It's way easier if you just admit.
Everything that's ever happened bad in this company and in my marriage was 100% my fault.
Absolutely. It's the best thing to understand. I feel the same way at this
And
point.
that I literally know nothing. So
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to argue with anybody anymore.
I'm not
I
even
was
being
the issue.
sarcastic. I've
I'm not either. At some point you just realize like no, I'm the problem. I'm accept it, move on.
Brittany's way better at managing money. She's way better at talking to people. She's way better at
Right.
pretty much everything when it comes to running a successful business.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, and so then he actually, my partner that I had kind of grown the company with over about a year and a half, he just left this last October. So then I had to kind of start over from ground zero yet again. And now I am 100% running the company. I have three sewists in house. We're making most of our stuff in house now. A bigger sewing shop. We just moved to a new location, a retail store because I'm really trying to harness. But
which I think is super cool, by the
no,
way.
thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's
I think that's
for us. It
awesome.
was. I think it came down to, and we can get into this as being a con of being a small outdoor company that a lot of people don't understand. But it's so hard to compete online because the person that's going to get out ahead of everybody else is the person that's got the biggest budget that can spend the most on Google ad dollars and Meta and sponsor
I have to
people.
rely on my competitors using me as their reference in their ads in order to get my products out there.
Jesus.
That's how broke we are.
Yeah.
I've seen it's funny because I'll have people send me literal ads going, "Isn't that your quilt?" And I'm like, "It sure is. I'm glad you can see the logo on
Oh
it at
wow.
least."
Nice. Yikes. I haven't
I'll tell you
haven't-
afterwards who that is.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I try not to throw anybody under the proverbial bus on the podcast ever.
No, I just throw them in front of it.
Yeah.
That's all. Under it's safe.
So I guess that's the thing I want to really kind of deep dive for folks because I feel like there's a lot of people that are consumers of outdoor gear that love Cottage brands, that love some brands that aren't necessarily Cottage, big companies, small companies, but a lot of people that don't really, I guess, know kind of how the sausage is made, quote unquote, what really goes into running something as I think a lot of people think that easy as a small gear company, as a small cottage gear, and the pros and the cons of it. So I guess to start off on a high note, like I wanted to talk about some of the pros, like right off the bat, like not just being your own boss. And I feel the same way as you said. This is my fourth business I've ever owned. So I owned a restaurant for years with a family member,
Ooh.
by the way. So I know that world. That's why I was saying like, oh, I get it. I owned
Yeah,
a
I don't envy
restaurant
that.
with my father for years. There's a reason we don't own a restaurant together anymore, or barely talk to each other anymore. Uh, then owned a
It's
recording
unfortunate.
studio where I used to produce and record music. Hence why I'm such an audio and video nerd. And then owned the production company, and now the gear company is my fourth company. So I totally get the whole being an
Well,
entrepreneur.
YouTube's a business too. That's a company.
It's become a business for sure. I don't know if I necessarily always agree with the fact that it's become a business, but that's a whole different podcast.
All right,
And
we won't get into that.
every time I feel like I talk about that, I get a lot of people kind of throw their fist up and shake it at me. I've done that podcast. People didn't like that one.
Beep. Okay, start over.
So with some of the pros and cons, what do you think is kind of the biggest pro of owning and running a cottage gear company for you? Like what is it, if one thing had to stand out, what do you think is the best thing about doing it? Getting up every morning, coming in, flipping on the lights, fulfilling the order. Like what's the thing that drives you? What gives you passion to do it every day?
Um, it's a loaded question. I would say that it's obviously different for every person. And for me, I would say the biggest pro is probably also one of the biggest cons for me, and that is, that I have the ability to spend a ridiculous amount of time with my family. And the reason why I say it's a con is not because of the time with my family, but because of the fact that there when you run a business, it's 24/7. You don't really get to unplug from it, as much as you try.
Yeah.
When you're the one that's responsible for everything going around and responsible for staff and responsible for so many things, as I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to have intentional time, because my day is kind of just stretched from point A to point B, and it happens to span the entire day. So it's really like I'm with my family all day and they're here, but it's not what it used to be before I was owning the company, where it was like I would come into work, I would do my job during the day, and then I would go home and have intentional time with my wife and kids. It's like,
Sure.
there's times I'm sitting on the couch and my kid wants to play with me, but it's like, dude, sales are down. And I don't tell him this because he don't give a crap.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, sales are down. I got to get this newsletter out. I got to get this post made. I got to get this done. I got to get this done. And for me, that's been the biggest blessing and challenge, is that I have what I always wanted, which was, we have a homeschool room in our shop where
Oh, cool.
my wife homeschools our kids during the day. We eat lunch together. And when I'm working from home, they all just stay home. So we're kind of all together all the time, which has been amazing. But it's also, the more that I've looked back on it, it's also been very, I don't want to say I regret going down this road, but it's been a lot more challenging than I ever thought it would be, because I know that my time's not as intentional, because we've been in crisis mode for 3 years, really.
Sure.
For 5 years since the pandemic. We've been in crisis mode, just trying to figure everything out and figuring out, is there a new direction we should be going in? And my kids have to be a part of that journey. Now, as they get older and they see and can look back, as we do when we're, kids, and we grow up and we look back at our childhood, we see things very differently than we did in the moment. And my hope is that they'll see that all of this was for them, and that I never lose sight that this is all for them. Like, there was a time where it was about making a life for them that was later down the road. Once we had success, once we had financial freedom, once we had all these things, then we would have this great life and great family. And as I go, I'm realizing, like, that time may never come. We're running a small business and we're doing custom made to order gear. There's going to be a ceiling. And if that ceiling, the margin, it doesn't matter how high the ceiling is, if the margin tracks with it, you're only piling on more work, more stress, more chaos. And so I'm learning just now to embrace the journey a lot more than the destination, and learning how to slow down and how to take it all in the right way and share those lessons with my kids and be more present. But it's been probably the most challenging thing, but also the most fruitful aspect of the business.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. I think, like, for me, obviously I'm not doing this. Like, I don't have kids, and obviously I have a wife, and she's just now.
Dude, I have 4 kids.
4 kids. Wow.
Yeah.
Intense.
Since starting at 19.
Wow. Intense.
I've been a parent my entire adult life.
Dang.
That's all I know.
Good on you. My wife is just now coming into the business, where since we've opened the shop, she's now coming like on Saturdays and stuff like that, and helping to run the store and being there as a presence and helping talk to people on the floor and share our experience. But that's a really interesting perspective, that it's, for you, it is a pro, and it's a double-edged sword, where it's a pro and a con. But it sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like it's more of a pro for you, that you get to kind of grow something.
It's definitely more of a pro, because
family. Yeah.
there's a way that I can balance it. I've not been able to balance it very well up to this point,
It's
but
tough.
because I know that it is possible, that I can create that balance, that it will become the biggest pro, and probably only a pro at that point.
Sure.
But because, my approach and my vision has been so, in a lot of ways, self-centered, because, I always had this dream of being a millionaire. I've always wanted to be a millionaire and have total financial freedom.
Okay.
I know it sounds corny, whatever, but
No, not at all.
really, for me, it's because I love being generous. And when you're broke, it's really hard to be generous. You can be generous
It
with your
is,
time. You can be
sure.
generous in a lot of other ways. But there's something about being able to make an impact, make a difference in a bigger way, in a larger way. And not even from a recognition standpoint, because I genuinely have never cared about that. It's always been, I'm the type of guy where if I had $1,000 to give to somebody who's really a mom that's struggling and needing to pay for groceries and get Christmas presents, like, I want to be able to just do it without even thinking, like, here you go.
Totally.
And when I can't do that, when I can't be in that position, dude, it frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, no, I understand that feeling. Yeah, I grew up crazy poor. I was raised by a single mom, worked two full-time jobs. We grew up super, super poor. Like I always been poor. I'm still poor. 40 years of being poor. Yeah.
High five to that.
It's that Midwest life, man. I grew up in Southern Indiana, so it's just like, working, blue collar family, single parent. But yeah, I feel that. I think for me, kind of what you said, it's less of wanting to kind of do well for myself, less because like I don't. I actually want the opposite. I've never cared really about money. I care about money to the point to where if I have some, then yes, I can help take care of other people. I can invest that into community. I can give back. I can donate. Obviously, I want to build a life for myself and take care of myself. But I I think my biggest thing has been kind of what you said in there, which is giving back. And it's for me, it's less of money, and I think for me, it's more of the biggest pro for me about owning a gear company is the fact that I get to develop and make something and produce something and put it into the world that is based off of my experience, my hardships, my good times, my bad times, the shit I've put my
For
body
sure.
through over the years, the mental anguish, the physical anguish, the accomplishments, the failures, all of that stuff. And being able to like come in here every day and have an idea, like go for a hike, get an idea of like, oh, this is something that we should do with a backpack or a cook pot or a piece of apparel, and then be able to translate like that passion and that thought to first a piece of paper and then to a piece of fabric and then to create something and then release it to the world and then have other people get it, use it, and then be like, just yesterday I got in a conversation over in the store with the guy that had hiked the PCT last year, through like the PCT, and used our sun hoodie, the entire PCT all the way from Mexico to Canada.
Nice.
Came in, he just wanted to buy a hat and support the company, but he thanked me. He's like, "Oh, your shirt was awesome. It definitely helped me, be comfortable while I was out on trail." And like that is the biggest pro for me, is actually being, the biggest thing with the outdoor community for me, the YouTube channel, the production company, the gear company. The thing that I say this all the time, and I feel like a lot of people believe me when I say this, but I do feel like there's a lot of people, oh, he's just full of shit. And it's no lie. It's the biggest reward. The thing that I've wanted more out of any of this is to be a part of a community and to give back to a community. And when I get to make something, when I get to put something out there, somebody gets to use it and leave me a review, send me an email, a message. I meet somebody in person and they're like, oh, your backpack was great on my weekend trip with my kids and I had a great time. Thanks for making a cool product. That is always going to be the biggest reward for me. Always. So that,
You know what's interesting? The fact that neither of us said freedom.
no, God, no. It's not freedom at all.
But that's the thing, is that a lot of people, I think, start on the entrepreneurial path because they think it's going to lead to this
Oh,
freedom,
God,
this
no.
this free lifestyle, that they're going to make money and they're going to be able to go travel and do this and do that. And
3.5 years.
I would argue that it's
3.5
I'm a
years
lot
in.
more locked in now than I've ever been working just a job.
Oh, absolutely. No question. 3.5 years in, and everyone can quote me on this because, and we'll get into a con here in a little bit, weird narrative stuff. 3.5 years of owning and running a company, having multiple employees, putting out multiple products. I have never, ever taken a single penny from Evolve Supply Co. I've never been able to pay myself. I've never used it to pay for something of my
I can
own.
do you one better. I've only continued to spend money
Yeah,
to try to help UGQ stay
exactly.
alive.
Same thing, man. Absolutely, same thing. And it's funny, Again, well, I don't want to kind of jump the gun on it, but the narrative that people have of like, oh, well, you own a gear company, you must have all this freedom and money to do whatever you want and make the absolute opposite. If you've ever met anyone that's ever owned a company, that's an entrepreneur that owns a small business, you'll know that they have no free time. They consistently lose money. They are working, I come in here every morning at 7 a.m. and I leave every night at 7 p.m. I'm in this building for 12 hours a day, whether it's doing stuff for the gear
Yep.
company, shipping products, doing the media, updating the website, ordering products, managing the employees. I got to do payroll today. Like, I'm here 12 hours a day for that, not to mention the other stuff I do, like podcasting, the YouTube
That's just
videos.
block one.
Yeah. The YouTube videos, all that stuff. But those 12, like, I don't get paid for that. Like, I don't make any money off of that. Now, you could argue that it's the long-term investment, and my hope is that one day that would support me and that would be my job. And for me, that's where it's worth it. It's like I get to invest in something for my future and my wife's future and a thing that we're trying to build together. But yeah,
And I would agree, because I think that, for me, it's, again, realizing that the journey is where the value lays, not the destination.
Absolutely.
And if you ever decide to start a business, you have to go into it with the mentality that you're probably going to be broke for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
You can, there's definitely people that can start companies and make it profitable a lot quicker than we did. Don't get me wrong, but it's the mentality that you have to have regardless, whether it's successful or not,
Right.
because you have to be prepared for the not. And if you're not prepared for the not, you're going to be thrown really far and really fast. I mean, it's like getting, for me, it's been reality check after reality check. I came back into this business and took it over with the mentality that I was going to just blow this thing up and it was going to be this great, awesome thing. And we were going to be flush with so much cash.
Totally.
And realizing that I couldn't have been more wrong in my approach and how I've looked at the business, how I've looked at the big picture, and really just now slowing down and going, no, this is part of the success journey. There's so much failure required to be successful.
Absolutely.
And even those companies that start and have success early on, there will be a storm. There will be a day. And if you've not prepared for it, it's either going to make or break your company. And,
Totally.
We had abundance during the pandemic. And one thing that we did wrong was that we didn't store for the drought.
Sure.
We didn't prepare for, well, what if this doesn't stay consistent? What if this doesn't continue down this road? And so for me, like, that was a big lesson in business, that there are major storms that you cannot avoid. Just like Mother Nature, they will hit whether you like it or not, and it's just a matter of how prepared you actually are for that storm. Do you have your generators ready? Do you got gas? Do you got your windows boarded up? Do you have all these things prepared? And, there's a lot of people that might think you're foolish when you're boarding up your windows on a sunny day.
Totally.
But I would argue that that's the smartest person that you're going to find, because they know something that you don't. They have wisdom that you've not uncovered yet. And surrounding yourself, I'll tell you right now, surrounding yourself with people twice your age is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yes, sir.
Because they have wisdom that you cannot get without experience.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And to your point of what you said, it's like you can't have success without failures. You have to go through the shit. You have to make mistakes. You have to do all that so you can learn, so you can gain more knowledge and experience. And then that helps you grow. And whether it's growing a business, whether it's growing yourself, whatever it is. It's funny. I feel like right there in the middle of the conversation of talking about pros, we swung into cons. It's starting to sound like there's more cons.
I think it's a pro, because I think that it's really just about your approach, and the reason why I say it's a pro, because, again, it's how you look at your business. I think that if you truly embrace the journey and embrace the suck, as you've probably heard that expression a lot, embrace the suck, embrace the pain, embrace the suffering, embrace it instead of letting it tear you down. And, I've experienced more depression in the last 3 years. I didn't even know what depression was until taking over this business.
Absolutely.
I didn't, on a real note, I did not understand how much it would break me as a person, break my, in a lot of ways, my pride, which has honestly been good, because it's allowed me to see more clearly than I've ever seen before.
Stuff like that definitely humbles you.
And I don't think that that's a con. I think that that's a pro, because at the end of the day, like, life is about self-betterment and about how you can go through life constantly striving to be better. And I think running a business will force you in that direction. It will cause you to become a better person if you allow it, but it can also cause you to crawl into a deep dark hole that you may never come out of. And so I would say you have to be mentally fortified before taking on running a business.
That's a great point, man. And I had that as like on my list as a con of like how much work it actually is. But to your point, it can be an absolute con. I think that it does help you
and how much
grow.
more rewarding will it be when you make it to that
Sure.
destination that we all have in our mind of what success means to you.
Sure.
And when you get there and you can look back and go, wow, look at all, like, I mean, you've through hiked more than anyone I think I've ever personally talked to.
Sure.
How many days sucked? How many times on that journey was it just absolutely miserable? And if you equate that to your business, think about that dopamine hit on the final day when you're raising your hands up in the air and you're getting that picture, you know, and that feeling of just that overwhelming feeling, which I can only speak to, not necessarily in through hiking any major trails like that, but in my own different experiences in life, looking back on that going, you know, that wasn't that bad. And honestly, that has given me so much fuel moving forward to how else can I hurt myself? Because I know the reward is so much greater at the end, but it's whether or not you give up, whether or not you decide to persevere and push through to that.
You might be a good through hiker. You might be a good long distance endurance.
Dude, I gotta get this hip replaced,
and
I gotta get my other hip replaced.
If you're into masochism, which it sounds like you are, you might enjoy.
If I even knew what that word meant, let alone spell it, then I might agree with you.
Oh, we're talking about a lot of masochism here, whether it's through hiking, running a business.
I hope that's a good thing.
Having 4 kids, it's all masochism, sir. Absolutely. That's a good point. One of my favorite quotes of all time, one of my favorite sayings of all time is you can't have the sweet without the sour. And anyone that's ever seen it, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's a super corny movie. It's a movie called Vanilla Sky. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that's a line that Jason Lee's character says a lot in that film. And I'm sure he's not the one that came up with that, but that's always stuck with me. It's like you can't truly enjoy something until you've gone through it and all the ups and downs. And I agree with you. I think that is a big
it's
pro
perspective
of owning.
When you have 3-4 rainy days on a trail and then you wake up to a sunshiny, beautiful day,
sure,
you appreciate it so much more because of what came before it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think that's the approach you have to have when running the business. I mean, the grind, you know, it's monotonous. There's days where you're just like, I really wish I didn't have to do all of these tasks because it's not fun. And I signed up for this for the fun stuff. And when is the fun going to begin?
So that gets me into the next, like the bullet point that I wanted to talk about, which I put in my con list of running and owning a small cottage gear company, but that's wearing every hat. Like, even though I can speak this for myself, even though I have employees, even though I have 3 people that are in-house to help me make products and stuff like that, every day I come in here, like first thing I do when I walk through the door at 7 a.m. is I go to the computer, I start printing out orders, I fulfill orders, I ship orders. I go down, I open up the store. I make people schedule, I do payroll, I do all of the marketing, I shoot the photos, the videos. I manage the website, I order product, I literally...
And now we've made it to 10 a.m.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's just the warm up.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, then I still have my other full-time job I got to do, like making content, doing videos, doing podcasts. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of shit that I have to do after I get done with this podcast, Dave. Maybe you would believe the amount of shit that I have to do.
I would.
Yeah. I'm probably not going home.
It shows right here in our beards.
Yeah, right.
All the gray. That's...
I've seen a couple.
You know, they say that there is a
videos.
direct correlation with gray hair and stress, especially in men.
Absolutely. Like, I've secret, folks.
That you can reverse your. Out. I've heard that you can reverse the graying process by like truly by finding like inner peace and like not, you know, especially as middle-aged men, like our cortisol levels and stress and all these things like go through the roof, and they actually take the color out of your hair, all of these particular hormones and stuff in your body. So you, again, don't quote me on this. It was a thing I saw, and I did read an article, but did I see where the article was from? No. So do your own research. But I'm convinced that you can reverse it if no other way than
find inner peace.
Going down to Walmart and
a little bit of Rogaine,
touch of brown.
that might be.
We already
my
have
inner
the touch
piece.
of gray.
Yeah, my inner peace might be Rogaine. So speaking of wearing every hat, do you at this point do you still feel like you wear every hat, or do you feel like you're? For me, it's hard to, and maybe you can speak to this as well. I feel like whenever you're a small company and you're trying to grow the vision and you're trying to get it to do the thing, like I've always felt like I have really good intuition about stuff. If I have an idea on something and I can kind of see into the future a bit, and I know like if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, I can make this thing successful. I've always been able to do that. It's kind of a, and like that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, and it's not. It happens to work that way. If I have a really good idea and I give all of myself to it, I obsess over it. 9 times out of
It's
10,
math.
yeah, 9 times out of 10,
It's
you will it into existence, right? Like it's willing
well,
something
you look
into
at like
existence,
sales.
right?
The more doors you knock on, the higher probability that you are going to convert.
Sure.
Right. So the more that you pour into
Right.
something, the higher the probability literally just
Right.
becomes.
But I know
So I think
because of
that's
that, I purposely wear all the hats. Like I put myself, could I delegate more? Could I tell someone like, hey, do this and you do this? But I will insert myself into every single aspect of the business nonstop to make sure that it's, and like sometimes I feel like it can be looked at as some people as like
not
being
sewing.
a control, not sewing. Um,
Got you there.
but I am still the person that will pick up a finished product and look at that stitch line and be like, well, this kind of looks ugly, and can we redo this and this? So I am very much, I'm still there, like, nitpicking the stuff, the quality, right?
Yeah.
The quality control. I'm very high on quality control. I spend a lot of time doing that personally. So I feel like for me, a lot of people can look at that as like, well, you're a control freak. It's because you can't. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it more as like, well, I have the vision. I know what it needs to do. So I I purposely wear a lot of hats because I want to make sure that I see it through. Where are you at kind of on your journey of being a small business owner? Do you still feel like you wear every hat, or you feel like you're pretty good with delegating and stuff like that?
I've gotten better, and I've been so from 2017 to 2021, I was running the whole operation. I was
Sure.
dealing with all of the processes, all of the QC, all of the like all of the stuff. And at that time, we were doing a lot more business than we're doing now. And you know, I was in love with it. I loved the challenge. I loved having every second of my day filled with challenge
I'm the
and
same
how I
way.
can recreate these processes and fix this
Yeah,
and change
it
this and get
sounds
more
like
efficient
I
here.
might be bitching when I say that I'm here from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every. I love that. I love being like a bouncy ball and going back and forth.
Yeah,
Like
and you
I'm a
have to.
restless person. I love being busy consistently and having challenges.
But I will say that there are certain aspects of the business that I realized that by them being on my plate, it was having a more negative effect than a positive effect
Sure.
because like processing orders. Like I don't do that anymore because that's not something that I feel like is productive for my time. That's something that if I put together the proper training and show somebody, I know it's going to get done right. I know it's going to get done the way that I want it done. And I tell everyone that's ever worked for me, if you have a better way to do something,
I'm the same way.
let's put it to the
Show me.
test.
Yeah.
Let's put it to the test. And if it's more efficient or better in any way than the way that I've structured things, then that becomes the new process.
Sure.
Because I want everyone here to feel like they can make a difference and they can bring something to the table.
Right.
I've also learned that when I have the ability to, I will continue to delegate more off of my plate, and that's simply because you get to a point in the business where you have to start thinking bigger. You have to start thinking outside the box. When you're in the growth stages and you're in the place of, it's all out chaos all the time, like that makes sense. And that makes sense why you're in that place because you probably can't afford to delegate, right? You can't afford to put somebody in this position who's running full-time marketing.
Yeah,
or
and I
who
think
is,
that's where I'm at.
doing this job.
Like I feel like I have to because like I have 3 sewists and it's like those are my 3 employees and it's like whether I could have them ship stuff and I could have them do this and I could have them do that, but then that also takes away from that process. So we're not big enough yet to afford to have like someone for shipping, someone for media, someone for customer service. So,
Well, and that's where you get into the creative aspect of, what you as the visionary, the innovator, the one that's bringing the company to the marketplace. That's where your job really comes in is how can I create more efficient processes to allow more time for them to be freed up.
Right.
How much time does it actually take to process orders on a daily basis? Is it an average of an hour? Okay, how can I over here, make this process more efficient and buy back that hour of her time to be able to delegate this over here. And that's where, for me, I've learned that I thrive, is bridging those gaps and figuring out all the in-between details of how we can make this more efficient.
Sure.
Because, like answering emails, I've been answering emails for this company forever. Like, I'm the guy that is responding to every emails, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, the CEO is replying to my email." I'm like, "Bro, I'm the CEO and the janitor, so don't get too
That's
excited."
how I feel too. Yeah.
It's not like it says CEO, yes, but it's not that cool. I promise.
Emails and I get the exact same thing. People are like, "Oh, hey," and it's like, "Hey," and they're like, "Oh, you're actually answering the email." It's like, "Yeah, I have to answer the email."
But see, here's what I've learned. I will drop the ball on answering emails more consistently, because it's not that it doesn't matter. It's I'm a procrastinator, especially if it's a task I don't want to do. I don't like doing
Sure.
emails, and so I'll end up procrastinating emails almost sometimes to a fault, to where, we have a strict guideline: 24 hours. Every email gets responded to within 24 hours. The inbox is totally cleared no matter what, every 24 hours. And it's usually every morning we answer emails, but we clear out any emails that came in the day before. And if there's time-sensitive emails that come in through the day, we obviously respond. But I want our customer service to always be, no matter what, you're getting some sort of reply within the first 24 hours, usually within the first couple hours, depending on the time of day. But I've realized that my wife, she obsesses about emails getting answered the second they hit the inbox, providing a significantly higher level of customer service. Now, does she know everything? No. Does she know how to answer them most effectively? No. But the fact that she's willing to step in and go, "Hey, I'll respond to this email, even if it's just to tell them, I don't know, I'll get back to you after I talk with Chad," and then respond back later that afternoon, that's providing a level of customer service that I've never provided, because I've never saw, my brain doesn't work the way that hers does in that particular arena. So I think it's not only about delegating, but it's about finding the right person for the right job, because I'm not the right person to answer emails. I'm just not. Not because I'm not good at it and I don't know everything that I need to know to answer the emails effectively. It's because I have a character flaw, and that I will procrastinate them because I don't want to do them. And so if I focus my time on the things that I know are the most beneficial for me to be doing for the company, that's where I think we'll find more success in trying to take off some of those hats and delegating them to the right person. And again, it comes with time, because you can't just do that day one. You may not even be able to do that year 3, 4, or 5, but you have to have it in the back of your mind always that you have to be willing to look in the mirror as the business owner and go, how am I hurting this company?
Right.
Not how awesome I am and look at this vision I have, but what am I doing that's hurting the company? And if it's not something that I can fix, I need to put someone in this place to make sure that this part of the business is not suffering, because it has to be a well-oiled machine. And if you have one piece of that machine that's not well-oiled, then it kind of crumbles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where I'm going with that.
Well, it's just, again, it's like, I think there's a pro to wearing all the hats of like trying to grow something, but it's also, for me, I know it's been because I do wear all the hats, because I do have to do all these things, because, we just don't have the help, because we are such a tiny company. Like, that does take, I guess it's a con for me, because it takes away from all the other things that I do, right? Like I said, the gear company does not pay me. I do not. It's not how I make a living, how I keep my lights on, how I eat. That's not how it works. So
if you could right now, what's one thing you would be doing differently for the company? Like, if you could only focus on one thing, what do you think would be the best thing for you to be doing for your company every day? Like, your entire schedule was just focused on this one thing.
I mean, honestly, it would be making more. It would be making what I do. It would be making more media. It would be making more customer videos, to do walkthroughs, to be more of the face of the company. It's something that I always try
and doing
to
more
do.
education,
Exactly.
like we talked about.
Educating more people about our fabrics, about our designs, because you read so much stuff about, again, it's false narratives, right? About like how this is made, or how that's made, or what this does or what that does, because people just come up with ideas themselves. So I would be doing more of that, and being more of the not that I'm not the customer service, because if you've come in the new shop over the past week, I'm down there every single day talking to people, but I'm also responding to all the emails, being the customer service there. But I would spend more time doing what I do the best, which is being a people person and talking to people and educating and inspiring people. And really, the whole point of the store was to, it's less about like, well, I want to do that because I need to make more money. It's more of, I want to do that because I want to share more knowledge and get people into backpacking and hiking and get them on in the outdoors.
And it's what makes you happy. That's
It's
what you
makes me
wake up,
happy.
enjoy
Absolutely.
doing.
Over the past week and a half, I have been on this like crazy adrenaline high where I've probably gotten more work done in the past 2 weeks of being the busiest I've been in years because we
I know,
opened the
because
new
you never
store.
text me back.
Sorry, bro. I'm terrible. And that's why.
I promise you, I'm just as bad.
And that's to your point. That's why. It's because I'm constantly going. But to know that like it becomes like, is it, does it take time out of my day to, I'm running down, because right now we're between two spots. So I'm in the old office and shop, and then the new shop is 2 doors down. So I got to go downstairs and down the block, right, to get in there. But I'm constantly moving back and forth between the two places, and I'll run down there just to tell one of my sewists something, or to grab some product that we have down there to fulfill an order up here, because like our product's split between both places
Sure.
right now, our back stock. And like there'll be somebody in the store and they'll be like, oh, hey man, like I'm a big fan of your videos. And I'll stand there and I'll talk to them for 45 minutes to an hour, bullshitting with them and giving them recommendations of local trails around here, giving them some advice on like, I don't know, a local restaurant to eat at. But that brings me so much joy. Like it gives me so much adrenaline, because like that is the thing that is my biggest payment for having the gear company and doing the YouTube videos and being a part of the community in the industry. Is like, I love that, because for me, it was, this kind of gets deep, or like some background, but like growing up in Southern Indiana, I've never been a family person. So like you said, like you have a very strong family connection. I, no family at all. I'm just not I grew up very alone. I took care of myself when I was a kid. I was a latchkey kid, so by myself a lot. Dad was never around, mom was never around, and as an adult, like never really had a strong family relationship. Have like two family members that have a strong connection with them. Unfortunately, one passed away and the other one lives in Minnesota.
Bro, you've been married 19 years.
Yeah.
You're doing
Yeah.
doing well. I mean, that's a lot more than most people nowadays.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I just went down a completely different path in my life. Like my family, a lot, like most people's family, a lot of dysfunction in my family, a lot of toxic relationships in my family. I decided to break away from and do my own thing. So all that being said,
Sure.
back in those days, like in that life, my past life, I never had a strong family connection, strong community connection. So when I went to go do the Appalachian Trail, and I found the through hiking community and this like big open arm, welcome you in, like your family, and that is what I got addicted to. It's what I've been chasing for 11 years. It's not chasing to finish a trail. It's not chasing to get rich. It's not chasing to get famous. It's like chasing community. That's just who I am.
Chasing your belonging.
Yeah, it's always been who I am. Anyone that's ever spent 2 minutes with me in person knows that. I never shut the fuck up. I'm a bullshitter. I'll bullshit for hours about the most mundane subject you've ever thought
It's
of.
called ADHD.
Yeah, that too.
And I suffer from the same.
Self-diagnosed.
That's literally a symptom of ADHD.
Oh, I know
is
it
that
is.
you talk with a level of a lack of self-awareness and how long you've been talking until then you like all of a sudden scan the room and you realize like,
Yeah, everybody's gone.
What just happened?
Yeah, man.
I feel you.
So it's like, that is the thing. All that being said, that's what, to answer a really long way of answering your question, that is what I would be doing more than anything, is doing what I've always done, which is like making more content, but less as Darwin on the trail and the YouTube channel, and more as the face of my company and the thing that
The brand.
yeah, I made a video and I just put it out last week where I did a little tour of our new shop. That was for my Patreon account. I ended up deciding to release it last minute on the channel because I was like, oh, maybe some people find this interesting. But it was that gear company for me. It took me years to understand it, of why I was doing it in the first place, why I started it, why I wanted to do it. But that building over there and that store and the shop is a combination of everything that I've wanted for the past 11 years. That's community to me. It's like
Yeah.
I can design a thing off my experience. Somebody can come in or online, send an email. I can share my experience. I can inspire them to go do a thing that they're trying to get into. And I can like help make their life a little bit better and a little happier and help them to create their own memories and make their own accomplishments. And to me, that's what it's all about. And it's taken 3.5 years now of having the business, opening that store and having the vision for doing it and knowing exactly what I wanted to do with it. Like, it's not about, well, I'm going to have a store so I can make more money. Not it at all. It was, I'm going to have a store so I don't know. So I'll be more famous. Not it at all. It's, I want to do that so people can come in. I can share information with them. They can share information with me, and we can create a community around it. We can have a true community space, which again is the reason why I started the whole YouTube channel in the first place, because I wanted to grow that community that I lost when I got off the AT, moved out to the Southwest. I was looking for the community. I wanted it. So I was like, well, I'll do what Joe Brewer did and Will Wood did and Syntax 77. I'll make a YouTube channel and maybe I'll find my community. I'll share information and inspire people.
Yeah.
And that's always what I've been like after, which is I always joke I'm a bad YouTuber. Like if I was a smart YouTuber, I would treat it more like a business and be like, well, I'm going to make this video and get it sponsored so I can make money and live my separate life. But that ain't never been me. Like I'm the person that's just like, no, I want the audience to enjoy. I want somebody to take something away from it. I don't want anybody to have a negative thought or a feeling about me or this community or hiking or backpacking. Like I just want everyone to be friends and be a community and take care of each other and
Well, and that's the other aspect of it too, is like in order to maintain all that, you still have to earn a living. And in order to be as present as you would like to be in the community, you only have so many options, right? You can either go, if people want to see you go through hike a trail, well, it's like, well, how are you going to get paid for that? You got to take, sponsors, or you got to fund yourself by whatever means. And so, I've talked with a lot of YouTubers, and I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. Like you start out doing one thing and then it turns into people wanting more of that content. But the only way that you can provide more of that content is by turning it into a business. But then people don't like that you turned it into a business. And so now you're trying to find this balance. And I think, in your case, trying to create a gear company, in my mind, I think is the perfect solution, because it allows you to have that give and take between the two worlds, to be able to provide the content that you want for people without having to necessarily take on all these sponsors and be forced to run your videos a certain way. So you're self-funding yourself, but there's going to be that crossover, because at the end of the day, like, you need your business to make money so that you can provide this content. So of course you're going to talk about your business, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to bring to the table what your customer base wants. And so I think when you can create that balance, in small business, first of all, you have to understand that it's a lifestyle. It's not a matter of getting rich, because you're probably not going to get rich, whether it's,
it's a moonshot,
especially running a gear company.
That you're like the 0.1 of 1% of people out there that start a business that like are super successful. I hate to like say these names, but like your Bill Gates and your Elon Musks and your all these crazy stupid billionaires that went, above and beyond to do these crazy things, right place, right time, good investments, bad investments, helping people, I'm sure hurting a lot of people to get there. Like that's the people that are truly successful. Aside from that, it's just like, you're chasing a passion and a pipe dream and wanting to be your own boss and work for yourself. And you're willing to put up with all the crazy shit that goes along with it and drive yourself insane, like for no reason. Whenever you and I were joking before we started this, if it was about money, you could close it down tomorrow, go get a job at McDonald's and make the same amount of money, if not more money.
Or on the other side of that, I could outsource my products and cut my overhead in half and make significantly higher margins on all of our products. And, there's other companies that have done the same thing, where they started out Cottage making themselves, and they decided to go down a different road, because that road 9 out of 10 times leads to a much more lucrative lifestyle than choosing to run your business your own way, keep everything in house. We're manufacturing to a somewhat high level. It used to be much higher level, made to order custom gear. You put on a cut session, we can cut 20 quilts, and all 20 quilts are fundamentally different from each other. Colors, sizes, shapes, taper, no taper. That doesn't make an efficient process.
God no.
Would it be a lot easier to make them all the same size and the same color and mass produce them and put them across stores worldwide? Yep. That would be a lot simpler for me, because I would just need an executive team that manages all of those relationships and distribution and all of that, and I wouldn't need to do all the things that I do. But what we're bringing to the table is something that you'll never find in any of those other places. You'll only find in these small communities, because we're the ones using the product. We're the ones that are actually creating the innovation. I've had more of my products copied by big box stores, and this is true across cottage companies. Like, create a product, but because your reach or your budget is so small, there are so many companies that will see that. They scour the internet looking for innovation, because they themselves, for the most part, don't bring innovation to the table.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're an innovative company that's front running, this new genre or whatever the case is. But the reality is the birthplace of most products starts here.
Starts
and
tiny.
We're totally unknown. People don't know what we're bringing to the table, and it's sad. Now, the ones that are in the know, they won't shop anywhere else, because once you experience cottage gear, once you experience gear that's made by the people using it and that are testing it year after year after year and doing all kinds of crazy testing and figuring out and tweaking and modifying, like that's where those forums, like what you were talking about, White Blaze or whatever you said it was, or hammock forums, like that's where the community was talking about, well, what if we tried this? What if we anchored this over here? What if we made the ridgeline out of this material? And then that starts a whole new genre that people didn't even know existed. But it's the tinkerers, it's the builders, it's the engineers that are doing it the hard way, like you and I are, that are actually leading the industry, but no one knows it. And it's the most frustrating thing, because it's like, man, if people knew what are the difference in my quilt versus everyone else's. And again, I don't ever knock anyone else's. I love all the companies that are out there. I wish the best on everyone, because I think they all have families. They're trying to chase the same dream that I am.
Absolutely.
And I want them to achieve that dream, because there's enough market share for all of us. It's the corporate greed aspect of the industry that I think we should all be looking at as the opposition, not my quote unquote competitor that's in the building next door that's making a similar product. But I see his kids, I see his family. Like, I want him to be successful because of that, because he's trying to create a legacy for his own family and his own staff. And I think that's the aspect of the cottage industry that I find the most exciting is the camaraderie. Like, I'm really good friends with Adam from Hammock Gear.
Oh, okay.
He's like one of my closest friends, but he's also one of my biggest competitors in the hammock space. Like, probably my biggest competitor.
Yeah,
in the
I'm
space.
super close friends with a handful of our competitors. But it's like, I think that's the big difference, right? It's like, what are you after? Like, are you about growing and innovating and keeping that community and that cottage like community alive, or are you after the bigger money? And that it kind of leads me to the con I wanted to kind of talk about with you. And a big con that I feel like, I know you guys do. I know every small company deals with it. And that's the whole idea of like competing with other brands in the space that like make their things overseas or mass produce. And this confusion maybe from the audience or the consumer of not knowing the difference. And like, I always want to preface this with, I don't think there's anything wrong with making anything overseas or any country you choose, unless like the place you're making at's like into child labor and then, screw you. But I don't think there's anything wrong with not making things. I think too many people get hung up on the whole, like, well, it's made in the US and I'll only buy things made in the US. And like, I do support U.S. Obviously, I own a U.S. manufacturing company, but I don't think that that's the be all, like, do all, like, that's
how many
what it
people would
be.
not be able to experience the outdoors if it wasn't for overseas production?
Exactly. So I don't think there's anything.
The price point alone deters a large percentage of the audience.
And that kind of brings me to my point is I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think you should make things where it makes sense to make things. I say that all the time. It's like people are like, well, where are your products made? I think it's on our website in our Q&A. It's like we make things where it makes sense. Like I can't afford to make a titanium cook pot in the US. I can't open a titanium smelting plant in our basement and start making.
Right.
So it makes sense for me to have those made overseas. It makes sense for me to make my backpacks in house. Why? Because I want to control the quality. Because if I need to make an adjustment or a change to something because of customer feedback, I can do it on the fly right there in the shop. And the next backpack that goes out the door has that adjustment. But I think that there's a lot of confusion because I think that a lot of companies get compared to each other when people are looking at products, say it's quilts, backpacks, cook pots, and saying, like, well, this company is offering this. I'm going to give an example, a 50-liter framed backpack for this price. But you're offering the exact same 50-liter backpack that's framed, and yours is $75 more. You're ripping people off. I see that all the time. Like, this company is overcharging people. But then the consumer doesn't understand. It's like, well, but my thing is made by 3 people here in house, where we can make those adjustments. We can figure out quality control right on the spot. I can get feedback. And we're not even doing custom work. Like, you guys are doing custom work, which is a whole different level. This is just like, we don't offer custom work, but we do offer higher quality control because we can look at it, we can make those adjustments, I can take it out on a trip myself and like find, ooh, this really isn't working. We should adjust this and change it on the fly, which to me equals more quality.
Well, and
versus
to that same point, you have staff that is likely paid a lot higher than somebody that's overseas.
and that's the other
And
point.
as a result, they have a direct connection to the company and to the product, and they have a deeper care for
Exactly.
the product themselves because it's their own livelihood. But it's,
Right.
my staff, they're invested in the future of the company. I pay them well. And they're, because of that, they don't get as frequent raises, but they're invested from the beginning. When the second that they sit down on that sewing machine, they're making a high enough amount that they're not thinking about anything else or looking anywhere else. They're going, this is where I want to be. And because of that, we have the reputation of the highest quality in our industry. Well, that's what we see in our comments anyways.
Sure.
Whether that's actually true or not, who knows? It makes us feel good. But that's because they put so much pride into what they do. It's not just a job for them. They don't see it as a job. They see it as a career. And that's a big difference in U.S. manufacturing.
Right. And yeah, and that's just the truth that I think people need to understand is, like, if it's made overseas, that's fine that it's made overseas. But in most cases, it's much cheaper to produce overseas than it is in house. If you're buying, this is another thing I don't think a lot of people understand, is when you're a small company and, like, I'm going to take my company, for example. We'll say just our backpacks. Our backpacks are usually made in batches of like 25 or 50. It's what we try to do. And then we try to put them in stock. We have lead times on them. So we say, like, well, it'll take 4 to 5 to 6 weeks to make 50 backpacks. And then we put them on sale and you can buy them within them. If we have them in stock, we ship them, right? So that's how we do it. But so we have to charge the amount of money that it costs to make that backpack. By the way, for most people watching, margins on a backpack, you could buy a cook pot from my company and we make more money off that little 30-something dollar cook pot than we do off of a multi-$100 backpack. That's just the truth.
I forgot margins even existed.
Yeah.
So
Versus
like, wait a minute, my margin's a deficit. Mine goes the other
right.
direction.
Versus, like, it's all about supply and demand. So if you buy in bulk, obviously it's cheaper. I mean, go buy something from your local grocery store versus buying something from Sam's Club. You buy a 5-gallon bucket of mayonnaise, it's going to be cheaper than buying
Sure.
that
Cheaper
amount of,
per ounce or per
exactly. So it's the
liter,
same thing in the
however
gear
mayonnaise
company.
is measured.
If you're a smaller gear company that calls yourself Cottage because you started as Cottage, again, nothing wrong with that, and you make your stuff overseas and you're buying, say, 1,000 backpacks at a time, well, you're going to buy them cheaper than what I'm going to make 50 backpacks at a time for. So you can afford to sell your backpack $75 cheaper than mine and still make a profit off of it. So it's almost like,
Well, they're getting purchase orders from large retailers too, and they're
that
just
too.
throwing, smaller orders in there so that they
Right.
can get that pricing where they need it.
So it's like I think people don't understand that that's how it works. If you do that, like you can offer it cheaper, but what you lose in that process is if you buy 1,000 backpacks and say all of them have a component or a certain maybe the straps are you decided to make your straps out of 1/8 inch mesh versus a 1/4 inch mesh, and all of a sudden you start getting feedback that the 1/8 inches your straps are kind of uncomfortable. Well, you can't just change those 1,000 backpacks that you ordered. You have 1,000 backpacks now that you have to sell. So there's this whole thing of like it you're going to get higher quality and more innovation and more change in the products when you're buying something that's being made in a smaller venue at a smaller amount than buying something that's made in bulk overseas. But I think there's this unfair thing, and it's I think one of the cons of being a small company, it's hard to compete in that space because like I for that reason, you're looking at from the outside without lifting the hood, you're looking at two backpacks and you're seeing that backpack A is $250 and backpack B is $325. And you're like, well, why would I buy backpack B? They both look the same. They're both 50-liter packs. They both have a frame in them. Like, you're ripping people off.
Yeah.
You're charging too much, not understanding all the nuances that go into why this is $75 cheaper versus this. And I think that just having to compete in that space is such a con of being a small company. And it's I'm not even talking about like because there's two different levels of it, right? It's competing with, you could say that cottage companies compete with big box brands like, here I will throw some names under the bus because I'm not really throwing them under the bus. It's just true, like Osprey and Gregory, right? Two biggest backpack makers in the world that are sold at REI. I don't feel like I compete with that. I don't feel like you compete with, you know, your Big Agnes quilts and your or Big Agnes sleeping bags or whoever makes the biggest sleeping bags or quilts.
Although I will say, Big Agnes just came out with you know what? Never mind. Never mind. Continue.
We're gonna get
See, that's wisdom.
get down a
what I
dirty
just
rabbit
did there.
hole. But like, I don't even feel like I compete with them. But what I do compete with, and I'm sure what you compete with, is other small brands because they're small. They're still owned by one person. They're still ran by one person. The person that owns it's still the person answering customer service questions. Is they are a small company, but they're operating as a large company, as a large operation of having their things made overseas in bulk. So people look at both of those companies as being the same of like, well, you're a small company and they're a small company, but they're able to sell it for $100 cheaper. And every time I leave a comment on a YouTube video or in a Reddit post, or every time I send an email, the owner's constantly answering my questions and has got the best customer service in the world, not understanding, well, the reason that person is responding to all of those messages and every single comment about their product is because they have the time to do it because they're not making anything. They're not developing anything in-house. They're having their stuff made overseas, developed overseas. So they have a lot of free time to do the thing that you asked me if I had the time, what I would do more than anything. It's that part of the job, but there's that sacrifice.
You know, I put out a post recently about value and what value actually means. And, you know, of course it's subjective. It means something a little different to each
Sure.
person. But I think, you know, when you're looking at a general market, you can ask the question and go, okay, are the things that you just described, are they valuable enough to you, the consumer, to pay this premium for this service, for this, you know, our products have lifetime warranty. You know, being able to talk to the owner, being able to customize, or being able to, you know, get something that is hand designed or made by Darwin. Like, where does the value lie to you, for you, the consumer? Right. Is it strictly price? Is it quality? Is it a combination of the two, or where you're trying to figure out, you know, I want something that's high quality, but I don't want to pay for it. And I think that that's where the companies that you're talking about come into the picture, because, you know, they're able to market something as the same level of quality as something that's handcrafted here, and being able to take the best of both of those narratives because they're able to get the price down. And I think that that's where customer education, you know, is so important, because I've tried to educate our customers on the value in our products. We charge what it costs to make it,
Totally.
and our margins fluctuate because we're custom. So one product, if my team ships something to China or to Indonesia or wherever, and they forgot to include the pad straps, I just lost any margin we had on that product because now I got to spend $40 to ship
Yeah,
a
dude.
couple pad straps
I get on
here.
my people all the time for like they'll send an order and they'll forget to like put the hip belt pockets in there. They'll forget to add something in the order. And I'm like, crap, now we got to ship that. And that little bit of money that we made off that product, now I got to pay for
It gets
shipping. And
absorbed quickly, and for us,
yeah, it
like
does.
custom fabric,
Yeah.
if we have a custom printed quilt, that's a large cost for us. And if that gets cut wrong, if they cut a full taper when it was supposed to be a no taper, you can't undo that. You
Right.
can make it a full taper if you cut it as a no taper, but you can't do it the other way around.
Right.
And those are all the pieces of the business that what drive us crazy, because there's so many things that can go wrong that eat into what little margin you already have.
Totally.
And then we're killing ourselves because we're like, oh, we're responding to emails and we're providing you this value as the consumer that until you fully get it, you'll never see it for what it is, until like we can either do our jobs properly of educating you on why you're spending your money with us. For me, it's like, do you care that you're helping, feed my kids? Probably not. Like, that makes no difference to you. You don't know me. You don't know my kids. So me trying to approach the market and going, oh, we're a family business. Well, if your consumer base widely overall doesn't care that much about family run businesses, then it's not a good position to be in, right? It's not a good way to market your
Totally.
business. And I think that for us, it's been trying to find the balance of bringing something to the market that's approachable for consumers while also maintaining what we need to maintain on our end to run the business, to be able to provide that for you in return. And I just am not convinced that the customer, the consumer, will ever see cottage companies for what they are and why they bring as much value as they do, because there's so many things that go into it, into your
Right.
physical product that you're receiving. And as much as people like to think that we're making money, the reality is that on a given custom quilt, at best the margin is 30%. And that's when someone chooses all the options and gets like, but also something that's easily produced. It's a simple cut, it's a simple this, simple that, and then our margin is okay. But then, like I said, if they ship something wrong,
Right.
that margin's gone.
And then people want to
individual.
ask of like, well, why don't you sell your stuff in REI? Why don't you sell your stuff at? It's like, because then I have to give that place 30% off for wholesale to sell it, and then that means I make
That's just a start.
no money.
You'd be surprised.
Oh,
My biggest downfall
know.
with retail is, I've been approached by large retailers, multiple large retailers, and it's interesting because they all start off the same. Like, oh, I tell them like 25% is my cap. Like, that's it. Even though it's, I probably, if we're batch producing, and making the same size, same color, like we can get the margin a
Sure,
lot better
you can, yeah.
because of, just doing proper production.
Sure.
But what's interesting is that they'll start there, and then if you go down that journey with them, there's quite literally nothing stopping them from going, hey, I know you've got 20 new employees that you hired and you invest in all this equipment to produce these products for us, but we actually need 35% now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it turns into, okay, I'm either laying all these people off, or we're choosing to make all of our products for significantly less just to maintain this partnership. And then you multiply that across every other retailer that you're working with, and things can get messy so quick that I find overall it's really just not worth it. I'd rather work with the small retailers that understand margins, because they themselves have small margins and they understand how these partnerships have to work in order it's really not about making money. It's about building the community, bringing access to products that you may not otherwise get. You can't go into an REI and find a UGQ quilt. You never will be able to,
Right.
because we'll never be able to produce at that level in-house, and I'm not willing to go the other route of outsourcing just to make those products,
Sure.
to put them in stores, because no matter what, it's a nightmare dealing with retailers. It's not worth it, because they can quite literally manipulate you and do what they want, and you don't really have much of a choice, because all these people that you just hired.
It's like once you start going down that road, then you're always depending on the retailer and the wholesale side of it to be your business. And it's not making that customer connection and like getting people, you're not growing your brand at that
Yep.
point. You're growing someone else's brand
Quality
to sell
starts
your
to
product.
suffer.
And to cross your fingers and hope that they continue to buy that stuff in bulk MOQs, and so you can keep your lights on, which I think that is an interesting thing. I've seen a lot of stuff lately about people saying like, well, I buy from this retailer online and I'm supporting small cottage gear companies, which it blows my mind when I read that, because I'm like, well, if you want to support a cottage gear company,
Buy direct.
buy directly
Yep.
from the cottage gear company. Like when you buy something from a wholesaler, and like we all
It's
do it,
easy to get sucked into
duh.
the rabbit
But
hole
it's like,
of online shopping,
yeah,
and if
right,
somebody's presenting, oh, look at all
totally,
this cottage gear, but you don't realize that
right,
they get the margin. The cottage company doesn't get the
right,
margin. They're getting the volume, yes, and they're keeping their lights on and their staff
sure.
paid, but they're not making any money.
Yeah, and if it works out somewhat right, and the companies are supposed to do what they're supposed to do, they could help promote your company and they could help you get out in front of a different audience. But like in those occasions where that doesn't happen and you're just feeding someone else, like it's not supporting your company. And I've watched it. I've watched a lot of small gear companies and cottage companies go under because they relied on wholesale and someone to continue like hyping their product and it being the biggest product on the website. And so someone gets into it, and it's the same thing with the wave and the crash of like, oh man, this company, you know, gearcompany.com wants to buy 1,000 of our products. So like we're going to put all our efforts into making these 1,000 products. And 2 months later, they bought another 1,000 products. And that's what you build your company around. Well, then when the hype of your product dies, and then all of a sudden, gearcompany.com is only buying, I don't know, like 30 of your products. Well, all of a
Right.
sudden,
Now
the,
you're
the thing that
scrambling.
you
Now
grew your
you're
business on isn't feeding it. And so many companies go. So, like, that's something that I know that has been a light bulb that's gone off in my head over just the last couple of years of having the gear company, of seeing that and of being like, oh, well, and I've been more cognizant of that, of like, I if I'm going to spend effort like trying to grow my brand and my company and connect with my customers, I want to do it directly. Like, you want to support small companies, support my company, and I'll support you as you're my customer and take care of you. And like, if I'm going to give anybody like the percentage off, it's not going to be the retailer anymore. It's going to
right.
be the customer. Like, I'm going to take care of a customer and help them. So that's a big thing as well. Yeah, it's just the whole thing with competing and just marketing. And I said this in a video recently. It's like I started the local shop because of where we're at. We're in a cool outdoor town. I can grow a community here. Grand Canyon's a hour and a half away. Arizona Trail runs through town. Route 66, like, we're a big outdoor tourist town. And I'm focusing a lot of my efforts in there, not because I'm like, well, screw online shopping, because obviously I'm not going to turn off my website and not allow people that can't come here to buy my products. But in order to compete in that space, like, I don't have the money to spend on Google ads. I don't
Right.
have the money to spend on Meta ads to
Because
pay
$100 here and
influencers and
$200 here is
sponsor.
not going to cut it. It's throwing money right in the garbage. You
Oh
either go
no.
all in or don't
Oh
do it at all.
no. Yeah, to let anyone that like to know how the sausage is made when it comes to that, like, you have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month to get your stuff out in front, because you got to think everybody's competing. Everybody wants to be out in front. So everyone's going to dump as much money as they can, and when you're a small company, you don't have the budget to do that. You're just trying to make enough money to keep your lights on and keep your employees paid. So you sure as hell can't spend all this money on Google ads. So yeah, man, it's just tough. It's tough kind of competing in the space with just people that it's not even it's like, it's not the competition. It's the fact that I think it's the misinformation of how people think these companies
Yeah.
work. And as you said, like, what value you're actually getting. Is it price? If it's price, 100% buy it from the company that's ordering 1,000 units overseas. If price is what matters to you, and you're just trying to buy something once so you can go out and try backpacking, 100%, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Obviously, buying a custom piece of gear that's handmade in the US is an investment. And if that matters to you and that's the value to you, then I think that you should go with that. If not, and it's just about like, well, I'm just going to buy a backpack and go hiking one time So I'm going to save the $75. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But where I do see that it's unfair is whenever people, then the lines get blurred and people don't understand. It's almost like companies that are charging more money or have a lead time or whatever it is are looked at as like, you're ripping people off. It's like, no, we're not. You just don't
Well,
understand the
and
difference.
the even more unfortunate aspect of that is that you can either educate your customers from your own internal perspective, or you can shed light on those companies in comparison to yours. And I think, that's for me, like I'll never be like a Coke, Pepsi, type
Sure.
marketing.
Yeah.
I'm never going to throw another company under the bus to promote my own
Sure. Yeah.
own product.
Same.
And I think no
Absolutely.
matter what, if I'm just trying to educate customers, like, oh, here's why this product is valuable, but I have nothing to compare it to, it makes it that much more difficult. It almost makes it sound like I'm just tooting my own horn, when the reality is I'm trying to help you, the consumer, understand that what we're doing, like I'm utterly convinced that our products are filled more than anyone else's. Like we fill our products very thoroughly. You don't get downshifting. You don't
Sure.
have a lot of the same
I could
issues that you
speak to
get in
that.
other products. But if I just say that to the general public or the consumer, it's just a blanket statement. It's biased. It's all
Totally.
these things, and it's like, but I can prove it. But the only way I can prove it is by doing a direct comparison, and I'm not willing to do that.
Correct. So same exact thing. We put our backpacks out, and I know what makes our packs different, our frame system different. Like in our framed pack, I know what makes our frameless pack different. How it rides, instead of it sitting here on your shoulders, it sits more up front, like a running vest style pack. But it's like you can tell people that all day long, but until you, yeah, like you said, directly compare something, and then it looks like you're trying to throw someone under the bus. It's so difficult. I've run into the same thing. A couple years ago, I did a podcast with Mateo from
Mm-hmm.
Z-Packs, and he was out here, and we did a very similar podcast where we were talking about all these same topics about the gear industry and like how some gear is made. And it's funny, like without saying anything, without naming any companies, a bunch of people took that as me trying to throw other companies under the bus. And it's like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate the audience to understand that's why this thing's cheaper. That's why this thing costs more money. That's why you can buy this thing right now. That's why you have to wait 6 weeks to buy this thing. And in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I think it's important for people buying gear, wanting to, as they say, support companies, know what they're supporting, who they're supporting,
Right.
and why they're supporting it. But it's not like, yeah, I don't wish any gear company bad. I don't wish that I was doing better than anybody.
Unlike the
there's
companies
enough.
using my quilts in their ads, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Which
But
honestly I
and
find
that
is flattering, because out of all the companies they could have chose to do a direct comparison with, they must have seen me as their biggest competitor. I'm like, I told Brittany, I'm like, we made it. We finally made it. We are in someone's
yeah,
ad.
man. It's what are they? Imitation is the finest form of flattery. Which is it brings me to kind of my last con and the last topic I want to talk to you about, which is something I know that I have felt the negative effects of. And if anybody that just got the hint that I just made a hint to it by saying imitation is the finest form of flattery, because of false narratives that are kind of created around a brand and things that happen that can hurt a business. For me, because a lot of people don't understand the history and the past, both good and bad, that I've had with certain companies in the outdoor industry, why I started my company. I have read and I understand a lot of people like look at me doing a gear company as a negative thing, or what we're making as a negative thing, because of false narratives, because of people not having a frame of reference to what they're talking about, whether it's on, God forbid, a Reddit forum, which I despise. Sorry to all the good, because there are good folks on Reddit, but oh my
I don't know if I've
God, it's a
ever
toxic
talked to anyone
place.
personally that likes Reddit.
Well, I'm a big music nerd and a big vinyl record collector, and I do use Reddit for those forums. Awesome communities, right?
I've
But
literally
there are
never been
some,
on it, so I
man,
honestly can't speak to it. I wouldn't know, but
there are some very toxic things. So, someone says something in a comment, someone says something in a YouTube video, post something on Reddit, and then because people don't know any better, understand the story, people take that, twist it, and then like it turns into like the gospel truth
sure.
about something. And dude, all the time. Obviously, with me having the YouTube channel, the podcast, all the things that I've done publicly, I've talked about it before on this podcast. I have read and heard in person to my face the craziest shit about me, my wife, what I do, everything, down to stuff like I never actually hiked the PCT. It was all fake. It was all an illusion that I hiked the PCT.
It was all in your backyard.
Yeah, I heard
You know what's funny about that is that I've actually done videos where I'm like, I'm getting ready to climb this mountain, and it's literally the hill in my backyard. And I spend like 2 hours filming this video, and it's literally just me hiking up my back hill, which is not even a hill. It's like 6 feet in elevation.
Yeah.
And then camping in my woods, but doing it in a satirical way because I know that that's how the internet works. That they're just gonna like, oh, you're not real. I know. I got friends that are that.
Well, I've done it in not in a funny way, and people still tell me that. But it's it's because of like there's so many false narratives around brands and around things that happen, that it shine this negative light on companies. I know one of the big ones for us is because of my past connection with a company that's not around anymore that I developed products with. People don't know that story. They don't understand that story, mainly because I've kept my mouth shut about it, because in the grand scheme of things, it's nobody's business. Nobody needs to know the dirty things that happen, the awful things that happen. I'm over that. I don't wish anybody harm anymore. But
like I said, anymore.
I never did.
Cut.
It hurt me, and like there were bad situations. People were taken advantage of. It didn't end great. It destroyed relationships, a lot of things like that. But because people don't understand that story and they just see it at the surface level, then I start a gear company, and instantly people want to drag that into it and create some false narrative of like, well, I started a gear company because I was trying to rip off another gear company, or trying to put another business company out of business, or whatever. I ripped them off. They ripped me off. And it creates this weird false narrative that then people read online, not knowing anything about me, my company. And then it just it's a snowball effect, and it turns into this thing.
And then they automatically jump on a bandwagon and
absolutely inherently hurting my company. So, I know that I've dealt with a bunch of that, and in a very small way, because Evolve Supply Co., my biggest problem, and like to get a little on a soapbox here, is I've tried for 3.5 years to tell people about my gear company, talk about the stuff I'm developing, and I've gotten a big negative reaction from it. People thinking that I'm just doing it because I'm trying to make more money. People are weird. So weird.
All of you watching, you are weird.
So weird.
Not all of you. Some of you are normal.
No, there's some great people out there. And the thing that I've found lately with my audience is like the majority of my audience, people watching, people listening, are great people that support me, that love what I do, want to hear me talk about it. And it's those stupid little voices way in the back that are the negative people that are being assholes. And I don't care about. I'll play with them. I'll play with them in the comments, because that's just the kind of guy I am. I'm a smart ass, and I'll jump in comments and just play games with people. But I digress. But it can hurt somebody and a company's reputation so much when people don't understand the real narrative and all these things that are created that can literally like burn a company to the ground. It can burn people's livelihoods to the ground because somebody created some make-believe story about something and don't really understand the ins and the outs of it. And then that can inherently hurt not only just the business owner, but other people's jobs, people that rely on that business and that business owner to keep that company afloat, to keep the lights on, to support their family. So I don't know if you wanted to speak at all to that, like from your side of things and like your standpoint of like the cons of kind of those false narratives and things that can be taken out of context.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone experiences that personally, and especially if you're running a business, no matter what. I mean, there's, the internet has fundamentally changed humankind in how we interact with each other and how easy it is to talk to somebody some way online versus in person. And, we've all heard it, and we see it more clearly now than ever. And I think, at the end of the day, like time heals all things, right? And I think what you're speaking to is the damage that can happen inside that bubble of time. For us, we had back in 2021, we had a situation that, we got sucked into cancel culture. People were trying to cancel us on Reddit. And, it was a very, very unfortunate circumstance because it was my fault. Like, I take full responsibility for it. It was a blue line flag quilt that we had posted. And it was a lady who had emailed us and was like, hey, my husband's retiring off the police force and I want to build this for him for his retirement and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's super cool. And so we made the quilt and I posted it on Instagram. Dude, I'm a loser that lives in the middle of nowhere and didn't have internet. And, in hindsight, like, clearly I should have been paying a lot more attention to what was going on in the world because it was during the George Floyd stuff and Capitol riots. And
Sure.
all of a sudden it was like we got inundated with hate mail and messages and white supremacists and we're racists and, all these things. And it was like, holy crap, where did all this come from? Like, we literally had no
Because
idea.
of a photo.
And so I hurried up and took the post down because I'm like, my head's spinning. I don't know what's happening. And the next day we got an email from someone basically saying, hey, you're being canceled and we're going to blow this up and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all of a sudden fear sets in, right? Because I'm like, I just ruined our whole company and I don't know what's happening or why this is even a thing. And it wasn't until after doing it, I had made a public response because I was more or less the face of the company. Everyone knew I was the one that was doing the marketing and making the posts and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so I had made a reply. And again, this was a much, much, much younger, more naive Chad, which was what, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a matter of unfortunate timing. It was during the time when police were getting a very bad rap, all the way around, and everybody was kind of camping them all into that same pool. And my defense was, I have friends that are cops and I know who they are. I know they are genuine dudes that are really making a difference in our community. Like, if I could show you somehow the difference that they're making. So that's my own reality of police officers. I've never had bad experiences with them, but my fault was not understanding what the rest of the world was experiencing, what certain communities were experiencing, and that my posting of that, not because of any political stance, but that it could, somebody out there who had this really bad experience, it could have directly impacted them in such a deep way and profound way that I couldn't relate to, I didn't understand. And so I think a lot of our response was definitely reactive because we didn't see it. We didn't see where people were coming from. And so I think there's two sides to it. I think, yes, the narrative got way out of control across Reddit. People were making all kinds of assumptions, but our response to it also wasn't the greatest. I think choosing to stay silent, that says something, right? That speaks, because if you're being accused of something and you choose to say nothing, people will make those assumptions. And then if you decide to respond, if it's not the right response or the popular response, then there's a whole new subset of narratives that get built off of that. And so, I think that it's important for us as business owners to really understand that, what we put out there into the ethos has a ripple effect, good or bad, has consequences, good or bad. And you have to take those decisions seriously. And I don't know what you're speaking to, but I'm assuming it was before you even started your gear company. And the fact that people are connecting that to your company, I think is silly, or any of those connections. For us, it was definitely a hit on our reputation because up to that point, we had never had anything publicly that people were saying bad about us. Like, we've always had a great reputation. People loved our products, loved what we brought to the community. And that was really the first exposure to how ruthless things can get depending on where you stand. And we weren't making any political statements. Like, I was so naive to what was going on and why it meant anything. And as far as I knew, the blue line flag was just a police thing. Like, and this lady was making it for her husband, and I'm like, I don't.
And also, it's like,
I had no clue.
It's like, clearly, it's like, and that's the narrative that people like. That's kind of what I mean about false narratives. Is like people think that you're posting that to make some sort of political statement. It's
and
like,
by me removing it
because sure, you're guilty, right?
Right, I was being called out on it,
and people not understanding the narrative is just like, we made something for someone that requested us to make it because of this reason, not because we supported this or supported that. It's just because it was someone that was retiring from a job, and we made something for them for their retirement. And I guess that's what I mean about false narratives, and like, regardless of how you handle it. Because it's tricky, right? And it's tricky and it's sticky because it's like there's so many different opinions and there's so many different sides of everything, and everything's so divisive. It's like, how do you respond to stuff? How do you,
Well, I think a
quote
lot of it has
unquote,
to do
pick a side?
with your
You pick a
own,
side, you're wrong. You don't pick a side, you're wrong. You
for
say
sure.
something, you're wrong. You don't say something, you're
And
wrong.
that's the internet.
And
That's
it's
just
like,
that's the way our
it
culture is
is.
now, and it sucks. But I also think that, you know, time heals all those things. I mean, there's been some big scandals with some big outdoor companies that, most people don't even know about, let alone,
Sure.
will ever know about. And I think, there's enough people in the world that want to enjoy the outdoors. I don't get too hung up on it.
I guess to a point, it's like, it's ignorance, right? It's like, if you're
Very
ignorant to
much.
something and you don't see it, and then you do something as, what seems, again, like as small of a deal as like, oh yeah, we're going to post a photo of something we made for somebody. That's cool, right? And then all of a sudden, because you're ignorant to what is happening and how people feel and how people will take something, all of a sudden, like, you're thrown into the fire and you're like, wait, what?
And most people
And
are
all,
saying stay off the news. So then you stay off the news, and then you do something like what I did and
sure.
make that post. And then it's like, well, if you would have been paying attention to the news, you would have
I guess
known.
that's where it gets muddy, of like, of those false narratives and how that can hurt a brand. And I'll just speak to it real quick, because you brought it up and I made a joke to it, and so I'm going to try to do this the best I can, because I've never done this in
Uh-oh. You got me
6
nervous. I'm
years.
sweating. I don't even know what's happening right now.
I've never done this in 6. And that's not true. I actually have a separate podcast that's on my Patreon, so it's behind a paywall. It's called Spilling Tea, which is one of my favorite podcasts to do, where I literally tell an entire controversial story from my last 11 years in the outdoor community and industry. Stuff that I always keep my mouth shut on publicly, but I love to spill the tea and tell these stories. And I've told this story before.
Nice.
So I made a joke when I kind of started talking about this topic in specific, of like, imitation is the finest form of flattery. I very stupidly, kind of to your point, 2.5 years ago, Evolved had just launched. I had saw something, and it kind of irritated me, especially because of the story that a lot of people, again, didn't understand the nuances and the narrative of. Saw something, it twisted my tit a bit, and as a joke, because I'm a smartass and have a super dry sense of humor, I posted something personal on Evolve Supply Co.'s Instagram stories. And all it said was, imitation is the finest form of flattery. Thanks, love, Evolve Supply Co. That's all it said. I didn't say who it was to. I didn't say what it was about. I didn't see nothing. But people are clever, and they picked through the lines. They
Sure.
knew who I was talking to, what I was talking about, and they created an entire narrative based off of something that they didn't know the ins and outs of. And the story to that is, like I said, I started the gear company because I had developed and made a backpack with another company. And to this date, I never made a single penny off of that backpack, off of
Sure.
the design of it, the development of it, the namesake of it. It was named after me. The promotion of it, the usage of it, nothing, never made a penny. I owned 2 of them, and I bought them both at full price. That's how crazy the situation is. I did that. That was my own decision. I bought them at full price because I felt like I should, whatever I'm using, I should buy, and I should pay with my own money.
Hey, and real quick, I
Well,
will say that you've always paid for everything that you've ever used of ours too. Even though I've offered it to you dozens of times, you never let me. So
I try,
I will
man. A lot
say
of
he
people
has
don't
always
believe.
purchased,
A lot of people don't believe that, but yeah, it's true.
which I genuinely I appreciate. That goes a long way with me because it's
And
we
that
get
comes down to
1,000
me.
emails a day of people wanting free stuff. So
Sure. And that comes down to me wanting to support, kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation, of other companies and other people in this community and this industry. I like to put my money back into the thing that I believe in. I put my money where my mouth is, and I always want to support the small companies that, that I've taken inspiration from, that I love their products, stuff like that. That's always been important to me. Not for any other reason. That is the main
yeah,
reason.
no, I just wanted to throw that out there so that people knew that
Thanks, man.
that was
Thank you.
legit. And I've never paid you $1 to say anything.
No,
In
you
fact,
have
I've
not.
never paid any person ever in the history of our company to promote our products.
There you
So
go.
there you go.
Yeah. Now, how many people believe that?
I don't care.
Is a different thing. Yeah, I don't care anymore either. I got wore out of trying to say that shit for years.
It's I don't have it. Yeah, I mean I can't afford it. So
Right.
too rich for my
So,
blood.
so after the situation, I reached out to said company and I asked them, like, hey, my name's still on the product. I'm still a big promoter of it. I'm even going to be using it on my last big through hike, which was the Continental Divide Trail. Do you think we can figure out something and I can get some percentage of the sales of this product since I helped develop it? I put my name on it. I blah, 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 blah. Right?
Seems
My
reasonable.
fault, 100% my fault for never doing a contract. That's on me. I'm a moron because, again, I believe in community. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. We work together on something, we grow something. Right? So it didn't work out that way. I reached out. I said, hey, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to keep doing this, if you're going to keep naming it after me, can we figure something out? And then on top of this is the part of the story that nobody knows that's crazy. Out of that percentage, which, Chad, I'm talking about, like, I wanted like 7% of each sale of a product, which is like, that's less than most affiliate
Right.
accounts that you do with people with having no connection to something, just simply talking about it on a YouTube video. I was told no. I was told that if that's what I wanted, I should have done that from the beginning. Um, and in that percentage, I wrote up a whole contract for it, a proposal, right? I was told to write up a proposal. In that, I said, out of that like 7%, I want to personally donate half of it. I can't remember. It was like 4%, 5%, something like that, to public lands. I want to donate it back to the trail that I'm about to go hike, which was the Continental Divide Trail. So, and then I told him in that, and you can use it for promotion. You can say like a percentage of the sale goes back to the Continental Divide Trail. And I was told, no, no, absolutely not. Crushed me, blew my mind. So
Sure.
my next thing was I said, okay, fine. I 100% understand you don't want to do that. That's fine. We'll go our separate ways. But in order to go our separate ways, it's still named after me. It's still named after my company. It's still named after me. It's my namesake. I named it. Just at least change the name. Or maybe you could pay to license the name from me, like a one-time thing. Give me a one-time amount of money and you can continue to use that name to the end of time, or just change the name. Call it something different. You don't want to have me involved with it anymore? Fine. In order to really not have it involved with me, just change the name of it. And then I'm never a part
Yep.
of it ever again. I was told no. A tantrum was thrown on the phone and I had the phone hung up on me actually. Um, so I start Evolved. I do my own thing. I name it Evolved because Darwin evolved, Outdoor Evolution. That's why I called it Evolved.
Makes sense.
We put out our backpack, the Ranger, which is my second version of a backpack that I would design, but with added features. A bottom pocket, it had certain types of side pockets made out of a certain material, it had certain shoulder straps made out of a certain material, it had certain features on it, right? And then after we had been out for a little bit, getting a little bit of traction with the backpack, the company that continued to make the pack with my name on it, that continued to never want to change the name, uh, give me any money for it, do anything to have me a part of it aside from make money off of my name, decided to update that backpack for the first time since that backpack had been launched. And they updated it with a bunch of features that mirrored the backpack that I had put out with my company. So it irritated me that that's the out of all their backpacks, they updated one backpack with all these features, and it was that backpack. To me, that was a spit in the face, is what
Yeah.
that was. It's a direct spit in the face. So I posted, "Imitation is the finest form of flattery. Loved Evolve Supply Co." And then, boy, has that come back and bit me in the ass. And I've read so much crap, people trying to dissect what that means, that I was blaming somebody for ripping me off, even though I ripped them, all kinds of crazy stuff. But that is the
My
story
only
behind
advice,
that.
my only advice in all of that
Yeah.
is if you want it to be behind you, do what I did and just move on.
Oh, I did.
And don't
100%. Yeah.
don't look at any of the past or the past narratives or conclusions that people want to draw. I
No.
mean, at the end of the day, people are
No.
always going
And
to
I
do it
don't.
regardless
And I
of
don't anymore. That was
what we
3
do.
years
So
ago, and now I don't care. But just to that point, like that was one of those things. It was like, because of a false narrative, and me saying something without saying something and telling the whole story of what actually happened without anybody knowing that past and everything that happened. People took it, they twisted it into something which then gave a negative light on my company, which overall I'm sure hurt the growth of my company, hurt my business, hurt my product, hurt all of that stuff because of the false narrative that someone created by not having all of the information of the story. So, yeah.
I always tell both my wife and my kids the easiest way to replace a negative thought or negativity in your life is to replace it with as many positive thoughts as you can,
Absolutely.
as many positive experiences
Absolutely.
as you can be. And it drowns that out so quickly. But what happens is we end up, obsessing about these things and
Totally.
looking at all of the wrong angles of something instead of realizing like we live in a world full of people that are going to say dumb things and do dumb things. And you can either
Yep.
focus on your own reality and what your life is representing and keep moving forward. That's the only way that you make it successful. And the reality is that those times in your history, just like with anything, either make you or break you. And if you let it break you, that's says a lot about who you are. And if you learn from it and you move on, then that also says a lot about who you are. So I think for us, it's a matter of
Well, that goes back to that.
continuously looking forward. And
That goes back to that pro in the beginning of like you make mistakes, you do dumb stuff, you learn, you grow, you become more humbled, and you continue to try to grow your company going forward and try to find a place in all of it. And so, with all that being said, man, like what are you, I guess, going forward as a small gear company and kind of what you've done and what you've learned and the things that have humbled you and how you're operating. I mean, what's kind of the future of UGQ and future of you being a small outdoor gear company owner? What's your
wow, if I knew
focus
all
on?
that, then no, I think it really comes down to embracing the journey and I really like looking so far down the road, and I think it really distracts me from the present and the here and now. And most of the things that I've enjoyed over the last 10 years of my life were, I would say probably all of the things that I really remember as core memories were the times when I was living in the moment and present. And that's when I was creating and innovating and bringing new products. And it's easy to get washed out in the noise of the business and just stress. So I think for me, it's slowing down in a lot of ways in order to ramp up in others. But it's a roller coaster. It's a ever changing landscape of I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I don't know
Oh,
if
none of
that'll
us
ever
know what the hell
change.
we're doing now.
But I'm okay with that. If this business goes under for whatever reason, will it destroy my life? No. Will it be sad? Yes, but it won't change my spirit, my direction in life. And what I've learned now at 34 finally is that there's nothing more valuable than the present moment because literally nothing else exists. There is no existence outside of the present moment. And trying to really wrap my head around how to live and exist and stay present in the moment for this business, for my family, has been the hardest challenge, but the one I think I'm the most excited to really dive into head
Yeah, man.
first.
Yeah. Beautiful. Absolutely. Like I think that's the
I
key.
rehearsed that. That was all.
Did you? Did you?
I have my note. I have my
I
notes
think
written on my
it's
handwritten
truly enjoying.
stuff.
I feel the same way, and that's like with the new store and doing the things that we're trying to do here and grow the company. I'm the same way. It's like I'm really invested in like every single one of those moments in the present that someone comes in and wants to talk about gear and wants to tell me about how they loved our sun hoodie on the PCT, or they like saw our backpack online and they wanted to come in and try it on, and how people are excited and stuff like that. I think that's what it's all about. It's I'm like I'm not concerned with much else outside of that. It's just it makes me happy to do it, and it brings me joy to be able to put my experience and my passion into things and hopefully get somebody else out there so they can have their own passions and experiences. And yeah, yeah, I 100% I'm with you on that. I think it's all about kind of being in that moment and enjoying the process of making cool shit and getting cool shit into people's hands and hopefully inspire them do the same thing and go through the same crazy rigmarole of owning a small business
Yeah.
and figuring out the pros and the cons for themselves and chasing their own what pipe dream and their own vision down the road. A huge thanks to Chad for joining me on this episode for this conversation and really picking apart everything that goes into owning a small independent cottage gear company. Why we do things the way we do, all of the pain points that come with it, but all of the rewards as well. If you guys want to check out UGQ, I'll leave a link down below or in the show notes. Or if you want to check out my company, Evolve Supply Co., again, I'll leave a link to that. Guys, if you have been enjoying the Outdoor Evolution podcast, the video format, and you're watching on YouTube, give this a like, share it with somebody. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of the podcast, and let me know who else you would like to see on the podcast and what conversation you want to hear us have. If you are listening to the audio version, go give us a rating and a review, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, Google, no matter what podcast it is. It really helps us get out in front of more people, and it helps support the podcast. I hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're taking care of each other. I love you, and as always, thanks for tuning in.